The cult of the goddess Roma, symbol of power and imperial unity. The cult of the goddess Roma was a unique religious and political manifestation in the history of the Roman Empire. More than a traditional divinity, Roma was the personification of the spirit, power and eternity of the empire itself. Her veneration not only reinforced Rome's identity as the capital of the world, but also served as an instrument of cohesion and legitimation of imperial power. Origins of the Cult of Rome. The Cult of Rome emerged in the 3rd century BC, at a time of great expansion of Roman power. As Rome conquered new lands and absorbed different peoples, the need arose for a unifying symbol that would transcend the cultural diversity of the empire. The first clear trace of the Cult of Rome appears in the Greek world, specifically in Asia Minor, where the cities subjected by Rome began to honor her as if she were a deity. Temples were built in her honor and sacrifices were offered to her, not only to thank her for her protection, but also to demonstrate loyalty to the Roman power. The association with the emperors, Rome and Augustus. With the rise of the Principate and the consolidation of power under Augustus, 27 BC to 14 AD, the cult of Rome was strengthened by merging with the worship of the emperor. Augustus did not declare himself a god during his lifetime, but he allowed himself to be worshipped alongside Rome in the eastern provinces. This was crucial to the spread of the cult, as it allowed conquered peoples to maintain their religious traditions while accepting the supremacy of Rome and its ruler. The Temple of Roma and Augustus in Pergamon, inaugurated around 29 BC, is one of the first examples of this religious and political fusion. From then on, numerous temples throughout the empire were dedicated to the divine couple, Rome, the Eternal One, and the Emperor of the Day, her representative on earth. Characteristics of the cult. Unlike other religious cults in the Roman world, the worship of Rome was not centered on myths or stories about its divine origin, but on its glory and eternity as an imperial entity. However, it did adopt characteristics of traditional cults. Temples and altars. Temples were erected in honor of Rome in different provinces, especially in the Hellenized East. Votive altars were also built where sacrifices were offered in her name. Priests and priestesses. Priesthoods dedicated to the cult of Rome were established, some of them linked to the emperors. Festivals and ceremonies. Festivals were held in their honor, in which sacrifices, games and public banquets were performed to exalt the greatness of the empire. Coins and artistic representations. Rome was represented on coins and sculptures as a woman with a helmet and armor, similar to the goddess Athena or Minerva, reinforcing her image as protector of order and civilization. Cult in the West and East. The cult of Rome was most widely accepted in the eastern provinces, where the concept of divine monarchy was common. In Egypt, Syria and Asia Minor, emperors had been regarded as gods since the time of Augustus, which facilitated the incorporation of Rome as a legitimate deity. In the West, however, the cult faced some resistance. The Romans were traditionally reticent about the worship of living persons, which limited the development of this religion in the city of Rome itself. However, over time, the imperial cult gained ground, especially under emperors such as Domitian and Hadrian, who encouraged the worship of Rome and the emperor as a single divine entity. The decline of the cult. With the arrival of Christianity as the official religion of the empire in the 4th century AD, the cult of Rome and the emperors gradually disappeared. Christianity rejected the deification of any entity other than the one God, which led to the prohibition of sacrifices and the destruction of temples dedicated to Rome and the emperors. However, the legacy of the cult of Rome lived on in the idea of the Imperium Romanum as an eternal entity. Even in the Middle Ages, European rulers continued to claim legitimacy for their power based on the heritage of Rome, keeping its spirit alive in the collective imagination. Conclusion. The cult of the goddess Roma was more than just a religion, it was a political and cultural tool that helped consolidate imperial identity. Through it, Rome not only established itself as the ruler of the world, but also as its divine guardian, an entity destined to endure beyond time. Although the temples and priesthoods disappeared, the concept of Rome as a symbol of power and civilization never died out. Even today, the idea of Rome persists as an icon of greatness and eternity in the history of humanity. The cult of the goddess Roma, expansion, rituals, and her influence on imperial politics. The cult of Roma Aeterna, the divine personification of the eternal city and its imperial power, was not only an expression of reverence, but also a fundamental pillar of the political and cultural structure of the Roman Empire. Through temples, rituals, and associations with the emperors, this cult played a crucial role in legitimizing imperial power and integrating the provinces into the Roman model. Expansion and adaptation of the cult of Rome in the provinces. From its beginnings in the 3rd century BC, the cult of Rome spread throughout all regions under Roman rule, but its influence varied in each province. Hellenic East, integration with the imperial cult. In the regions of Asia Minor, Egypt and Syria, where the concept of god-kings had been rooted since the time of the pharaohs and Hellenistic monarchs, the cult of Rome merged with the deification of the emperors. Cities such as Ephesus, Smyrna and Pergamon erected temples to Rome and Augustus, consolidating their loyalty to the new imperial order. Featured temples. Temple of Rome and Augustus in Pergamon, 29 BC, one of the first great temples dedicated to Rome in the east. Temple of Rome and Augustus at Ancyra, present-day Ankara, Turkey, famous for the inscription of the residential Gesti Divi Augusti. The cult of Rome in the east was not only religious in character, but was also a symbol of submission and recognition of Roman rule. Through this cult, provincial elites demonstrated their loyalty to the emperor, securing favors and benefits for their cities. The West, Rome as protector and symbol of unity. In the western provinces, where religious traditions were more diverse and less inclined to the cult of deified monarchs, the cult of Rome took a different form. It focused less on the deification of the city, but on its role as protector and guarantor of order. In Hispania, Gaul and Britain, the cult was integrated with local beliefs. In some cases, Rome was associated with indigenous goddesses of war and protection, such as Belisama in Gaul or Victoria in Hispania. In Lugdunum, Lyon, France, a great imperial sanctuary was established, where sacrifices and ceremonies were celebrated in honor of Rome and the emperors. In Britain, Roman temples were often located near military camps, where soldiers swore loyalty to the goddess and the emperor. In the West, the cult of Rome served more as a tool of Romanization, helping to integrate conquered peoples into imperial culture. Rituals and ceremonies of the cult of Rome. The cult of Rome had its own characteristics that set it apart from other religions in the Roman world. Its rituals were designed not only to pay homage to the goddess, but also to reinforce the idea that the empire was a sacred and eternal entity. Sacrifices and offerings. Animal sacrifice, especially of bulls and lambs, was a fundamental part of worship. It was carried out on altars dedicated to Rome and the emperor, and its purpose was to ensure the prosperity and stability of the empire. On holidays, public sacrifices were organized, where priests offered animal entrails to the goddess. Citizens could make personal offerings, such as small statuettes, votive inscriptions, or coins bearing the effigy of Rome. Games and celebrations. During the festivals in honor of Rome, gladiatorial games and athletic competitions were organized. In some cities, such as Lugdunum, these celebrations were grandiose spectacles that attracted thousands of spectators. Processions and civic worship. The cult of Rome was closely linked to the administration of cities. Local elites, including senators and magistrates, participated in processions where images of the goddess were displayed alongside those of the reigning emperor. These events reinforced the idea that the city and the emperor were earthly manifestations of a divine power. Rome and the emperors, the transformation of cult into a political instrument. With the consolidation of the Principate under Augustus, the cult of Rome went from being a simple homage to the city to becoming a mechanism for legitimizing imperial power. The emperor as son of Rome. Since Augustus, emperors were represented as the protectors of Roma Aeterna. Their images on coins and statues often showed them alongside the goddess, emphasizing that their power was a continuation of the spirit of Rome. Vespasian, 69 to 79 AD, promoted the idea that his rise to power was a mandate from Rome itself. Dear time travelers and lovers of eternal stories, I am Messalina, and I have a little secret for you: the gods reward those who support their favorite storytellers. If this corner of myths, legends and mysteries has sparked your curiosity, I invite you to follow my channel and activate the bell so you don't miss a single trip through time. And if you want this legacy to grow and continue exploring together the greatness of Rome and beyond, you can leave your offering on PayPal or Patreon. The links are in the description, because even the gods know that any help allows for the forging of eternal works. I promise you that if you do, the gods will bring you peace, prosperity, and perhaps a little touch of fate. Your gestures do not go unnoticed, and my gratitude will be as infinite as time itself. Hadrian, 117 to 138 AD, strengthened the imperial cult and ordered the construction of new temples dedicated to Rome in various parts of the empire. The crisis of the 3rd century and the strengthening of the cult. During the 3rd century AD, the empire suffered political, economic, and military crises. In this context, the cult of Rome took on new importance as emperors used religion to reinforce their authority in times of uncertainty. Aurelian, 270 to 275 AD, promoted a variant of the cult of Rome by associating it with the solar god Sol Invictus, fusing traditional beliefs with new Eastern influences. The decline of the cult and the influence of Christianity. The rise of Christianity in the 4th century AD marked the decline of the cult of Rome. With the conversion of Constantine and the progressive Christianization of the empire, the temples dedicated to Rome were abandoned or destroyed. In the Edict of Thessalonica, 380 AD, Emperor Theodosius officially banned pagan cults, including the worship of Rome. Temples were dismantled or converted into Christian churches, and ancient festivals were replaced by Christian celebrations. Despite its disappearance as a formal religion, the cult of Rome left an indelible mark on Western culture. The idea of Rome as a sacred and eternal entity remained present in the medieval and Renaissance mentality, influencing later empires such as the Holy Roman Empire and the Catholic Church itself, whose structure and symbolism inherited elements from the Roman Empire. Although its practice disappeared with the arrival of Christianity, the ideal of Roma Aeterna lived on in history, becoming a symbol of greatness that still resonates in Western culture and thought. Sweet souls lost in the night. I am Lysiska, and I wonder if you have already felt the irresistible desire to stay here with me. If my stories have captivated you and my voice has whispered secrets from ancient times, I invite you to follow this channel and activate the bell. This way, you will not miss any of our meetings. But if you really want to win my heart and be part of this eternal journey, you can leave your offering on PayPal or Patreon. You will find the links in the description. After all, generous souls are always rewarded.